Welcome friends, my name is Devenpoth and I've always wanted to create something useful for the Raspberry Pi. I've owned one since they were released and have done all the usual blink LED things with the GPI opened, but I've never really built anything useful for the Raspberry Pi, or what I would classify as useful. So today I'm going to show you my RGB LED that tells you how hot or cold the Raspberry Pi chip itself is. And just for extraness, I used Python because I really don't get to use Python all that much. So I thought, hey, good opportunity to use Python. So why not? This is a fairly simple project that you can follow with as a beginner. So what you're going to need for this is you're going to need one RGB LED, one 4-pin wire connector. This is female to female. Now we're going to hook up our RGB LED first. Doesn't really matter how you hook this up, but do try and remember what you where your ground is and where everything is configured. Basically, we're just going to shove those in there. Now on the Raspberry Pi itself, you need, if we orientate the GPIO at the top, you need to connect the ground on this RGB LED to the ground on the GPIO pins. Now, for convenience sake, I have found a configuration that works pretty well. On the bottom row, you want to skip the first 4 and plug the ground in at this number 5, and then the GPIO pins next to that. So I'll show you that in a second. So here we have the brown wire. Here is the ground, as you can see. Basically, you just want to kind of get all these pins in at the same time. And now we have the ground of the LED, of the RGB LED, hooked up to the ground of the GPIO pins, and then the next 3 pins for the RGB LED are connected to 3 output pins, which we'll need in code later. So the code for this Raspberry Pi RGB LED CPU temperature is very simple. I'm just importing the PWM LED. This is just so that I can change the brightness or intensity of the LEDs, because I do have plans to, expand on the project further on, maybe to fade the colors in and out instead of just switching them on and off. This is where we are setting the pins for the other colors. So here's the blue, the green, and the red. I know that this doesn't seem like the right, but if I just show you the Raspberry Pi pin out on the screen now, you can see that those do match up. We have a while true, which is a loop that runs infinitely unless we hit stop. That's generally what we're going to do. We're just going to hit the stop when we need to stop it. First things first, we need to get the temperature of the chip itself. Now, I know that I said this gets the CPU temperature, but in actual fact, this VCGen CMD measure temp gets the GPU's temperature. But because the chip is so small, those temperatures really are almost always very close together. Basically, we're just capturing all of the output from running this sub-process. Then we are just decoding that sub-process from bytes to a normal string using this decode UTF-8 method. Then out of that string, I'm just trying to get just the temperature itself. So I'm using Python's substringing here to find the equal sign +1 and go all the way to the full stop. Then that output I'm converting to an integer so that I can just be a little nicer to myself with types. I'm also printing this integer out here, which is what you can see running at the bottom in the shell here. This is basically how you in Python specify that this temp integer value is more than temp low and less than temp medium. This is how you do it in Python, which is really nice. Kind of makes sense when you read it even. Relatively simple. I've got a sleep in here just so that there's not too much execution happening at the same time. That's my first Raspberry Pi project using the GPIO pins. And that's also one of my first times really using Python on the Raspberry Pi. So I really hope that you like that project, and feel free to give this video a like and subscribe for more content. I'm going to have lots more tutorials, lots more project videos.